A 1-point game. Bryant for the win.
Dear basketball. From the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you. A love so deep, I gave you my all. From my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy, deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court after every loose ball for you. You asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart. Because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and the hurt. Not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you. Because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream. And I'll always love you for it. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding. My mind can handle the grind. But my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together. The good and the bad. We have given each other all that we have. And we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, ball in my hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always, Kobe.
Laker fans, this is a bit of a somber podcast. As you can tell, I didn't do my normal opening. I'm joined by Vinay, and by now all Lakers fans know we lost Kobe Bryant earlier today. We're recording this podcast Sunday night. When you listen to it, it'll be Monday morning, but we lost Kobe Bryant earlier today in a helicopter crash in Calabasas. His daughter, Gigi, was a part of that crash. She passed away as well at 13, as did 7 other people. My emotions have been all over the place, Vinay, but I don't even know what to say to you, man. What are your thoughts? Where were you when you first heard it, and how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I think before I say anything, condolences to the Bryant family, as well as all the other folks who lost family in that helicopter crash. I think life is a very precious thing, And, we always want to be able to see it coming, whether it be through old age or if folks, get sick and stuff like that. But when things happen abruptly in life, I think for me today, this morning, it was very shocking more than anything. And after the shock initially wore off, it got really bad, man. I don't even know how to explain how bad it is, but yeah, I just wanted to say condolences to that family, to Kobe's family, his wife Vanessa, the rest of the kids. He has a daughter that's never going to know what it's like growing up with him, seeing her father, and that's something that makes me very sad. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter of my own, and more than you know him, Kobe as an athlete and stuff like that. Knowing him as the stuff that we know about him as a husband and as a father, that's what really, really messed me up. Uh, Probably more than anything, more than any on court memory that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
That's really messed me up. So my prayers go out to his family. My prayers go out to all the folks, the other folks, I think in Orange County, that also had, I think it was like a mother, a father, and a daughter also that were on that flight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any surviving members of that family. So first and foremost, I wanted to say that. You know, my emotions right now are. I'll say this: I'm pretty cried out. We're recording this at about 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I think I've spent, not even exaggerating, I want to say I spent probably a good 2 to 3 hours just randomly crying about just
Mm-hmm.
different things. And I know it seems, to some degree, sometimes it seems silly that we Kobe's a celebrity, he's an athlete. There's so many layers of separation between us and him as a person, unless you've like worked in media and you've interviewed him,
Right.
or you're his teammate and stuff like that. But there's a quality to what he was as a person, and there is something that we always think of when it comes to athletes, that not only is winning important as a fan, not only is rooting for your team, and whether he's from your city or not from your city, all those things, there's so many small things that can affect your fanhood and how you approach a certain player and how much you appreciate him. But I think as fans, the thing that we always appreciate the most, win, lose, or draw, is the authenticity of the athlete. It's the authenticity of the player, of the nature of the player, of the competitive spirit of the player. And one of the things that I think for a lot of us Laker fans that has made us so attached to Kobe, aside from the fact that he's played for 20 years for just the Lakers,
Mm-hmm.
is that we got to see everything about him. There was no stone that was uncovered when it came to Kobe Bryant and the fans of the Los Angeles Lakers. We saw him come in as a high schooler. We saw him fail. We saw the world ridicule him for his failures when he first came in.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the expectations that were put on him, and we saw him fail. We saw him be pitted against his own teammates, and we saw them succeed, and we saw them fail. We saw how early on in his life he had met his wife Vanessa, and how his relationship as boyfriend girlfriend became public news,
Mm-hmm.
and he became the center of attention. And through that, we also saw him fail as well. The mistakes that he's made, not only as a player on the court, have been scrutinized to hell.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could speak confidently for all Laker fans that there were times where he shot us out of games. There were times where he shot us into games, and it was, sometimes it was infuriating, but it was, you were in it together.
Mm-hmm.
You always did it together. If we were going to lose with him, we were going to lose with him. If we're going to win with him, we're going to win with him. If it was a bad shot, if it was a good shot, if he didn't pass his teammates, we were going to, like ravenous beasts, we were going to defend him to the end. And that journey is something that I think all fans, not even just Laker fans, just fans of him, fans of somebody with that sort of character, is what people gravitate to. And I think what made him more real to us is even outside of the court, off the court, he made mistakes. He did things incorrectly, interpreted things incorrectly, whatever it may be. And it was never hidden from us. Like he made mistakes with it in his marriage, and he publicly apologized for it.
Yep.
When do you see that happen?
Yep.
And it's not as if like that's like the norm. Like infidelity and stuff like that is an issue, not in just an athlete's marriage, but in everybody's marriage. But how many of us go and publicly apologize for something like that?
Right.
And this man had to go do it. Now, I'm not saying that absolves him of what he did, but at the same time, you were allowed something into his life that you would never be allowed into, especially in today's. This is before social media. This is when nobody knew anything about him. And to see him persevere through that, and I don't know how many Laker fans are listening to this that know about what the media was like when Kobe had his trial going on and what was going on with him and his relationship and his wife. It was not good. He was cast into this villainous role overnight. If you think the stuff people say about LeBron is bad, unfoundedly, like he actually did like Kobe admittedly made a mistake, or, not made a mistake, but admittedly did something, went to court and trial over it, and apologized to us. He apologized to his wife in front of us. And you don't see that ever. That was a moment in history, in Laker history, that I think people forget about because they don't want to talk about it. But, and that's just something of all these memories that we have of him on the court, off the court. If there's one way to describe how I feel right now, there is a void in my heart, and there is a pain in my heart that I feel that I have not felt in years. And the last time I felt this pain was when I buried my aunt who died of leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to deal with that. But I think in time, and it will take some time, it is something that I'll figure out how to deal with. And I think for the city of Los Angeles and for Lakers fans all over the world, there is a void in their hearts that they will not be able to fill for some time. And I think as we learn to appreciate him more and remember him and the good things that he did both on the court and off the court and the life he lived, we'll learn to become stronger. But that's sort of how I feel right now about it. I don't know. How have you been doing so far today?
It ended up like kind of hitting me like a ton of bricks. Oh man, it's crazy because I was on my way back from Philly because I went to the game the other night, and I'm driving back, and my wife was like, she said like just got some really bad news, and I thought it was something with like my family, her family. She's like, I just got some really bad news, and then she's like, can you pull over and let me drive? And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, well, I don't know if this is true, but like they're saying Kobe Bryant died. And I'm like, Twitter, social media, they kill celebrities all the time, and you find out it's a hoax or someone just made it up for clicks or whatever.
Yeah.
So I try to go on Twitter, And I think at that point I'd only saw like TMZ and maybe one other place report it. Like ESPN hadn't, reported it. And so I was thinking, well, maybe that TMZ is just wrong. Sometimes they do get things wrong. So I'm like, all right, let me just wait and hear for more news to come out. And then I have a Lakers group chat, and I was trying to look into that, and people were asking, is this true? Everyone's trying to figure out, like, did this just happen? And then I think I might have turned on ESPN radio or NBA radio, and then they said, we can confirm he's really dead. And so immediately people start calling me and texting me. They know the kind of fan that I am. And I didn't answer anyone's calls, texts. I'm like, all right.
Same exact way. My wife is she's from Atlanta, and she's got, obviously all of her friends. She went to Georgia Tech, Georgia, and I didn't take any phone calls or messages, nothing. And people were blowing her up, and they were just like, "Is Vinay all right? Vinay all right?" And I was just like,
it was weird, man, because I'm like, okay, he passed, and then you get all these details about the crash, but some things are true, some aren't true. There's just so much information that everyone's rushing to get out. And so we're driving, I'm driving, and somebody called my wife to see if I knew yet. And, then people wondering why I wasn't answering the phone. And so she's talking to somebody, and like the tears just started flowing.
Yeah.
And I've tried to explain to people what athletes can mean to people. We often hear stories about kids who may be dying from cancer, and like their one wish is to meet a famous athlete, right? Mm-hmm. Or how high we can get on a win, in the playoffs or finals win, how low we can get in with a loss. So I've tried to explain that to people, what it feels like. But probably seeing my body language today put it into a perspective, for some people. And the thing is, like, for me, when it all kind of like, you can't anticipate someone dying the way he died. Like, it was just so out of the blue. And so I had never really asked myself, well, what would I do if he died? Like, it's just not even something I thought about. But when I kind of heard the news, I'm like, okay, I still got like an hour to go before I get home. Let me just process it. But my wife must have known how bad I was going to take it, because she asked me to let her drive. And and like
my wife was the same way. She was just like she was asking if she wanted me to like watch my daughter today, for me to take a break. And I was just like, people messaging me, they're like, hey man, if you need to talk to me or whatever, I'm just here. And I'm just like, I'll do it. I'll let you finish. And then I'll tell you where I was at, in the irony of where I was at. But everybody's been asking me the same thing.
It's crazy. Like, and I got home, and I'm on social media. I'm trying to catch up with all this stuff, with what happened. And it's just, and then you find out that Gianna died too. And it's just like,
that was Kobe was one thing, but then to hear about his daughter being on that was too much for me.
And it just, I've spent all day since I found out, like, I'll be okay, but then I'm crying, and then I don't know. It's such a gut punch to lose him. And people, like you said earlier, people will say, well, he's a celebrity, you didn't really know him. Well, Kobe is 3 years older than me. And mm-hmm. I feel like in a lot of ways we grew up together. And like you said, this is pre-social media when he came in the NBA. And so you got to see him go through his time as a young basketball player. You got to see him take Brandy to prom. You got to see him meet Vanessa. You got to see him first do the Sprite commercials. You got to see him shoot 4 air balls against Utah. You saw that, but then you saw the lob to Shaq to beat Portland. You saw the championships. You saw all the raw emotion. And I felt like I grew up with him. I got to see him post basketball with his daughter, and with his Kobe Inc. career, and with storytelling. You got to see all these other aspects of him.
Every part of his life was scrutinized. He had a daughter, and people were asking him on TV shows. They're like, "Oh, you had a daughter. Are you sad that you didn't have a son to carry on?" You're like imagine these questions being asked, like, and he was answering them. It's not like he hid his life
Right.
from people. So you're right. Like it's not. You think that there are those degrees of separation when it comes to athletes, and for the most part, there is, because some people know athletes, some people don't. But a person of his stature and success in life was still so transparent with what went on in his life. And I don't know, man. And this is before social media, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like I just like I found myself being all over the place, like when LeBron passed him in scoring the other night, and then he tweeted out, I don't even have the tweet in front of me, but he tweeted something out, and then you just realize, wait, that's his last tweet.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. And I know one of the reasons it's been hard on me is also because I lost my mom almost a year to the date. And so like I'm still grieving that. And here's this. And it's just like one of the reasons I do this thing, I do Laker Central, I do all this Laker stuff is because of him. Like he is like he's the reason.
Yeah.
And I've written a tribute to him that I'm going to get out sooner than later. And in that tribute, I basically said, when I was 17, my grandmother died, and Kobe didn't know this, but like his presence on with the Laker jersey on the court, the winning, all that gave me something to focus on when I was pretty much giving up on everything else. And then I get married 17 years later, and half of my honeymoon is spent coming to see his last game in LA. Like he's been so fundamental in my life. It's just like this guy is gone. And I was planning on going to the Hall of Fame induction this year.
Yeah,
he was going to be inducted.
Same.
And I'm thinking, okay, this will be the first time I get to meet him. I was going to spend extra money to try to get the VIP package, be back there with the family. And I'm like, that he's gone. Like that, even that, all of that is going to be different. Like if, what happens with the Lakers on the court is secondary to all this. But if they win, do you imagine the emotion? Like it's
going to be, I think for a lot of us Laker fans that in a situation where maybe this season wasn't emotionally charged, it is going to be very emotionally charged now. And for me, I was I had mentioned it on Twitter today, but for me, I was actually attending a gender reveal for my buddy, who is a hardcore Laker fan, and he was going to find out whether he was going to have a boy or a girl today. A whole bunch of my other buddies were there. A couple of them also have like one child. Like I have one child. They have daughters too, and so we were all just cool, excited to be there and stuff like that. And one of the guys that's at the thing comes up to me like in mid conversation. He's like, "Dude, did you read this?" And then, I didn't have my phone out because I was at the occasion or whatever. And I'm reading this at the TMZ headline, like TMZ, Kobe Bryant's been killed in a helicopter crash. I'm like, part of my language. I was like, no fucking way. Like, what are you like? Right. What is this? Like, this has got to be a joke. Like, and then like I tried clicking on the article. I pulled it up on my phone. I clicked on it, and then it showed like the tweet was deleted or like the page is not. I was like, all right, okay, this is obviously BS. Like somebody must have just guessed that maybe he was part of that helicopter thing, and they preemptively did it, and so TMZ is going to get roasted. And then then that wasn't the case. Right. Other people started reporting the same thing, and that was I was in shock. And I don't know. There's an emptiness you feel when you hear something like that, when it's so sudden. And so, it was what it was. And then the report started coming out about his daughter also being on that flight. Because in my mind, I was thinking to myself, I was like, why would Kobe be on a helicopter going to Calabasas? That doesn't make any sense. He lives in Newport. Then I remembered his academy is out on the west side, over there in the Valley area. And then the story about his daughter came out, and I was like, Jesus, like this is crazy. And at that point, I excused myself from the party. I asked my sister-in-law to watch my daughter for a second, and I went for a walk. He lives like in a suburban area,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing I keep telling people is I want to go process my emotions, but
Right.
I just want to go cry, dude. There's nothing else that I could do. I was just like, I just need to go cry somewhere where nobody's gonna see me, and I don't have to explain to my daughter why I'm crying and stuff like that. But it like you, for me, watching the Lakers has been something that is not just fandom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of my life.
Yep.
And one of the things that I think sort of underemphasizes his impact, in the way that I've tried to explain it to people who may not understand, is this. He played in the NBA for 20 years. In 20 of those years, he's gone to 6 finals, right?
7.
6 finals. 7 finals, sorry. So that means for 7 of those 20 years, he played at least 100 games,
Mhm.
at least around 100 games in 7 of those 20 years. And then he's probably played like 75 to 80 and probably somewhere between 80 and 100
Mm-hmm.
the rest of those years. That means that for 20 years, Kobe Bryant was a guest in my house for at least 90 to 100 nights out of the year.
Yep.
It's a third of my year that I spent watching him play.
Yep.
And this is not 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. This is 20 years of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if it was, oh, I watched him play basketball. Oh crap, we lost. Whatever. That's the end of it. This is somebody who is like in my house
Mm-hmm.
without fail and without like any prejudice. He's going to be here. We are going to watch him. If he plays terribly, then we're going to ride with him until it burns. And if we're not, then we're not. If we win, then that's great. And I feel as though his journey in life as a, I'm sure a lot of folks, athletes and people who know him very personally will have a lot of personal anecdotes that are going to come out in the next couple of days. But as from a fan, from the distance that most people watched him from,
Mm-hmm.
he has been a staple in our households, in all of Southern California, globally, in many of our households. And that is something that's very, very hard to quantify. That is something that's very hard to explain to somebody, because even we watched him get ridiculed after Shaq left.
Yep. I remember.
He made it to the top. They put them against the media or whoever you want to say, pit them against each other, and they broke apart. And we watched people laugh at him. We watched a person who called him his brother make fun of him because he succeeded without him. And obviously they reconciled later, and they regretted ever separating from each other to begin with.
Yep.
We watched Kobe play against the Celtics and lose in historic fashion.
Yep.
And watch as Paul Pierce spent the entire summer, putting down Kobe's name, saying that he was the best player, and Kobe couldn't hold a candle. And we sat there and we waited and we waited and we waited and we said, all right, we're gonna get back. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get back there. We're gonna do it again. And we beat Orlando. And I was like, all right, great. See, now you can't say anything to Kobe. You can't say that that he can't do it without Shaq, because now he's got as many as Shaq. And then we went back again and we played Boston. And that's, we're trying to be the greatest franchise ever, and we've got the greatest player that we've ever seen since Magic on this roster, and he's going to win it for us. And another story I'll give you is Game 7 of that finals that the Lakers won against Boston. I was in Chicago. I was at a convention in Chicago, and there was about 25 friends of mine who were also at that convention as well. And the opening night was Game 7. It was like the opening keynote speech of that convention. And I remember we were, this convention was like, we all had like, it was like at a hotel. So it was like, we had all of our individual hotel rooms and stuff like that. And I remember none of us went to the keynote speech. Every single person who had come from LA was in one hotel room watching Game 7 against against the Celtics. And there were people who had come from different regions and stuff like that. And we waited and we watched it all the way until the end, until the Lakers had secured the Game 7 victory or whatever. And Kobe gets that like crazy rebound or whatever to seal the game essentially. And I remember walking into the convention during the keynote speech right after that happened, and the person who was emceeing that speech, he saw all of us walk in, and the first thing he said is, "Oh, it looks like the Lakers have won because the LA guys are finally back." And we didn't care, like we were so happy because we had beaten our rivals, and that's what he means to us.
Yep.
That you can be anywhere in the world, and if he was having a big game, or if there was a huge crazy matchup or something historic that was happening, you had to find your TV. You had to go somewhere and you had to find out like how I could watch. The thing that people do today with Steph when he gets hot, or when somebody gets hot in the NBA and everybody switches to that game because you can just stream it or whatever, or follow links. We were doing that 12, 13, 14 years ago when it was Kobe. When he puts up 80, hey, Kobe's got 40 at the half. Oh, what's going on here? Everybody switch. Everybody go watch the game. And like I said, these are things in life that it does. You're right. A lot of people will use the term celebrity. A lot of people will use the term celebrity athlete, or they'll just say athlete. And I feel as though sometimes in life, that's what separates. People say that, oh, well, he doesn't know who you are.
Right.
Well, of course he doesn't know who I am, but I know who he is.
Right.
That's the point.
Yep.
He's doing, for the guys who play basketball, who played D1 but couldn't make it to the league, for the guys that weren't even good to make it into college basketball, that he's a person you emulated in your life. And today there was a bunch of games today, and you see so many guys who you would not think would model their games after Kobe, in tears.
Yep.
During the games. DeRozan, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Trae Young, Tyson Chandler from Dominguez. He played Dominguez Hills High School, so he was out here in LA. Like, so many players who just, you would have never thought. Yep. You wouldn't sit there and think to yourself like, how's this guy feel about it? But that's the impact a great athlete has, because the great athlete is not somebody who just impacts you with his winning. The great athlete is somebody who shows the passion that he has for his craft in a way that even fans can't do anything other than respect the person that he is and the athlete that he is. That's what Kobe Bryant was.
I'm looking at I'm just trying to still process all of this, and he really did mean a lot to a lot of people. I mean, you and I are up doing this podcast, and there are tweets flying around, and there are articles coming out, and people are doing their own tributes, and people are at Staples Center with flowers, and I would imagine this will go on for weeks. I don't think that I tried to figure out, okay, when was the last time we lost a celebrity like this, like just out of nowhere? Michael Jackson comes to mind, Whitney Houston, but I don't think we've ever lost a basketball player. Len Bias came to mind, but that was in the 80s, I believe. So, and he wasn't, he was a college phenom, but he hadn't played an NBA game yet. So this is just so shocking.
Yeah. So, I was trying to think of something that globally shocked people, like something that, I think Michael Jackson's situation is probably a really good, because he was a global
right
icon or whatever, and so that made the most sense. But you know, the one death that I think, the one death that I feel it makes, like I when I was thinking about it, that I was able to think of to kind of analogize it to, but was Princess Diana's death. The abruptness of it,
Mm-hmm.
how suddenly it happened, like the amount of shock and just the effect that it had on so many people
Yeah.
in that country. And, you know, obviously LA is a big city and California is, you know, a big state, and
Right.
there's a high profile and stuff when it comes to basketball out here. But you could see that across Kobe's impact across the all of the US, aside from the globe itself, was so profound that people are like in pain from it.
He was one of
And
the first athletes to really go to China
yeah,
to do those
he
Nike
was
tours.
he was an ambassador he was a great ambassador for the league. Um, he was like a no nonsense kind of guy. You know,
Yep.
when it came to his craft, he was super serious. And after he had retired, his success, um, you know, he won the Oscar or the Academy Award or whatever it was. Like his success in the things that he wanted, and his constant emphasis on whatever it is that you want to do in life. If it's a specific career that you want, if it's being a father, being a husband, being a son, being a brother, whatever it is that you want, always work on it, always work at it. And that sort of due diligence in life, if you have that approach, you'll find success in some way, somewhere. That's a message that I feel a lot of fans in general have always taken to heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we make the joke that he's inspired, you know, generations upon generations of people to throw that ball of trash into the trash can and say Kobe. But there is a part of him that we love, and it wasn't that we never believed him.
Yeah.
It's never that he would tell us that, you know, I have friends who, back in the day, they went to school at UCI, University of California Irvine,
Mm-hmm.
and Kobe used to train out there at like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. And some of these guys would go and stalk him. They would just go and stand and just watch him shoot jumpers like the entire time. So like I know today they publicize like, oh yeah, this basketball player, you know, Jimmy Butler's out there at 3 a.m. practicing and stuff like that. You never even knew that with Kobe.
Yep.
Nobody knew that,
Mhm.
and he was doing that. But you saw it. You saw on the court like that ferocity, that raw emotion, that the desperation when he used to try to claw the team back into games and stuff like that. And I feel as though that nature of him, and the fact that he was able to go through these peaks and valleys in his career, uh, both on the court and off the court, made him so relatable to us, relatable to fans and transparent to fans, that I don't know. I feel as though as fans, like now after, you know, today's events, and I'm sure over the next couple of days, I feel like maybe fans have started to take a step back, you know? And we always say on this podcast that one of the best things that we could possibly do as fans, or one of the things I would hope that we learn to do as fans, is learn not to tear one guy down to support another guy. And you can always argue over who's better. That's fine. That's like the nature of debate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, appreciate what you're sitting and watching in front of you, you know,
Yeah.
like appreciate the Jordans, appreciate the Kobe's, appreciate the LeBrons, the Durants, the Currys. Like, these are all people who are passing through our lives, who we are dedicating 2.5 hours to 3 hours of our life to every night.
Yep.
And they get paid handsomely for it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're at the mercy of our criticism. And, sure, we pay for the tickets. Sure, we pay for the TV packages to watch them and stuff. So we have the right to do that. But I feel as though we forget how great somebody is when we spend all of our time tearing that person down, little by little, whether it's something on the court or off the court. And I feel as though after Kobe retired, there was like this wave of everybody just like, all right, he's done. This guy is done terrorizing
Right.
us. Father Time has caught up to him. Let's give him his flowers.
Yeah.
And I think what breaks my heart the most is that we are giving him real flowers now that I don't think anybody wanted to give him this soon.
No, you're right. I think it's important for people to give someone their flowers while they're alive, while they can hug you and smile with you and enjoy it. And death often makes us reflect on what we could have done or should have done. And so now I'm seeing posts about, one that stands out. It's a picture of Jordan, and he's got his arms around Kobe and LeBron. It's a cartoon. But people are saying, let's all right, enough with the debates, enough with the tearing everybody down. Let's just appreciate all these players, because I think what we often do is we forget that they are human beings. And Kobe he was a tremendous basketball player. He was a worldwide celebrity, but he leaves behind Vanessa and their 3 children. He leaves behind Joe Jellybean Bryant and Pam, right? Kobe had siblings. There's family that's actually on the front lines that's affected by this. And one that I haven't heard a lot about today is Rob Polinka. I mean, he was Kobe's best friend. I know he was at least one of his daughter's godfather. And Rob still has to run a multi-billion-dollar franchise that has championship aspirations and a trade deadline a week away and all these things, right? He still has to do what his job is while now navigating what probably is one of the greatest losses of his life. And there were people that said the game should have stopped today. And I think they should have stopped. They should have postponed games today. I do think they would have.
For sure.
I also
I was gonna say I think they wanted. I'm sure that they probably wanted to, but because of the timing and how close and stuff like that. But I agree. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the games tomorrow are all completely canceled out or something.
Something tells me that based on what we know about Kobe's work ethic, he would just say, play the damn games. That's just who he was. I do think it's appropriate to give everybody, because players were crying, to your point, coaches were crying. It was a lot. It happened so quickly. And that Lakers Clippers game on Tuesday, I mean, that's going to be, there was the video of Doc crying. That's going to be a mess, man.
That's going to be, if that game goes on as expected, it's I had tickets to that game. I sold them I don't know, a month ago or something like that. And my buddy, who also has season tickets, same row as me, he was like, "Hey man, should we just buy tickets and just go to the game?" And I was just like, "Dude, I don't think I'm ready for this emotionally, because I'm sure they're gonna do a memorial and a vigil." I was like, "I'm just gonna go to that." That's gonna be
a rough one.
Even aside from that, the Lakers lost to Philly, and LeBron, though he did break Kobe Bryant's record, you could tell he was kind of begrudgingly accepting the award, and because obviously they didn't win the game and stuff like that. Right. So I'm sure that kind of probably bothered him. He would have probably wanted to win the game as well as break the record, or maybe even try to break the record at home against the Clippers and stuff like that. And I don't know if this is accurate, but a lot of people keep telling me that the last public statement that Kobe made was congratulating LeBron about breaking his record. And I think Kobe said that, continue to grow the game. And I can only imagine what that must feel like to be the last person that, maybe Kobe said anything about publicly.
Right.
And I don't know, man. I feel like the emotions for the next couple of days are going to be very somber. And, like I said, there is a void in Los Angeles right now that I think Laker fans will be banding together to try and help each other. And I think those cool memories and stories of those great Kobe games are going to come out very soon, and that'll help. But this is our own.
Yeah.
This is one of our own. that we lost. And look, man, if whoever listens to this, if you don't think this was a big deal, I take it from me and Alex, and I'm sure some of the other folks are feeling this also that do podcasting or write or even on Twitter. There are a lot of people who have messaged me today who are nowhere near Los Angeles asking me if everybody in LA is okay, like it was an earthquake. And just try, like I said, the prayers go out to the Bryant family, but at the same time, like I hope we as a fan base we continue to grow strong from this. I hope, and I know we will. But like always, we want to remember the best parts of Kobe, the things that he contributed on the court, off the court, and try to emulate the good things that he said and done, so that in different parts of our lives, so that we can continue to strive to be better as individuals. Not that he was perfect, but there are good things that each one of us have that we can share with each other, and then we can try and imbibe in each other's lives.
Yeah, I think it's important to do so, and I think one thing that I'm going to always remember about him is that he was so committed at being excellent at whatever it was he was trying to achieve, whether it was on the basketball court, whether it was writing these short stories and winning that Oscar, or the Kobe Inc. and the investing, even Mamba Academy, working with Gianna. Also Kobe, a lot of superstar players who they retire, Father Time catches up with them. They don't often still work with other players. And Kobe would work with Paul George and Kawhi, Giannis. He'd work with, Harden. He'd work with Kyrie. I mean, there's all these players out there that he stayed close to. And he stayed close to them in a way that probably, some people thought Michael Jordan should have done. Kobe made himself accessible to guys, and he never seemed challenged. He never came across as if a guy challenging his legacy was hurting him somehow. It was just great. Keep moving the game forward. And I know, like I said, I'm going to just take away from him that whatever you're trying to work at it and be the best. Do your best to be the best at it. And it's a sad day. If you
it is going to take Los Angeles time.
Yeah.
It is going to take this city. It is going to take the fans, all the fans all over the world, Lakers and Kobe specific, whoever. It is going to take some time. And the age of news that we're in today, things happen so fast that it's easy to forget. Within 3 days, something else happens, and you've already forgotten about somebody passing away or some major event that just happened. Mm-hmm. But this one's not going to go away for a while. And I agree with you. We should try to take the best parts of him, but because I don't want to be sad the whole time, because I don't think Kobe would want us to be that way. Do you have a specific moment, or it could be a few moments? Is there like a moment where, even in the, whether you're a reserved personality or not, when it comes to your fandom of the Lakers, was there a moment with Kobe that you can remember that you were just talking mad shit to everybody around you and stuff like that you can remember? Do you have a moment like that?
Well, I've got two, but one was when we beat Boston Game 7. That one, I remember texting all my friends because none of them are really Laker fans, and so they had talked trash about Kobe forever. They respected his game, but they didn't like the Lakers, and they didn't like the fact that I liked them, and so that one I rubbed it in everybody's face as much as I could. And then when we beat the Sacramento Kings back in 01, I think, or 02. The famous series with Tim Donahue and all that stuff. That one, I rubbed that in a lot of people's faces because a lot of people thought that Sacramento was going to beat us.
They were favorites. Yeah. They were the darlings of the media. the sexy passing basketball, unselfish. Look at this guy, he's amazing. There's no way that anybody could beat them. Yeah, we heard all the same things this year too as well. So it's history's repeating itself a little bit.
It's wild, man. My favorite like play has got to be when he crosses up Scottie Pippen against Portland and lobs it to Shaq, and that one.
Oh yeah.
That one is what that just started the Shaq Kobe dynasty. And oh man, that one, yeah, that's the play. I remember screaming when he hit the game winner over Phoenix when we went up 3-1 and 07. Oh no, I think 06. And then Phoenix roared back and beat us, but that one,
I think he had a game winner. Was that the one where he had a game winner over Kidd or something like that? Or
I can't remember who he hit it over. But yeah, man.
There was a game winner in game 2 or game 1 or something like that, I feel like.
He gave us so many moments that all I know is I'm sure his highlights on YouTube are going to go through the roof today and next. And people are going to be watching everything about him. It's just so many moments. What about you?
You hit a couple of the big moments. First and foremost, beating the Celtics. That same convention that we were at, there was a bunch of us, 25 of us from LA. But the other part of that story is that not only did the guys from LA not show up for the keynote speech, the guys from Boston, who were equal in numbers, didn't show up for the keynote speech either. And they showed up after we did, which is why the keynote speaker made a joke about LA winning because we were happy we came back first and we weren't angry or anything like that. But winning that was really a lot for me. Like that was one that like I was like ready to punch holes in the wall and stuff like that after we won because Paul Pierce 2 years earlier had talked so much shit about Kobe, and I was just like, and I don't know if you're gonna have to bleep all this stuff out, but I was just like, dude, there's no fucking way Paul Pierce is better than Kobe. Like, we have to beat these guys if we ever play them again. And we had beaten Orlando the year next, but I was like, we're gonna beat Orlando. I wasn't worried about Orlando. I needed leprechaun blood on my hands like by the end of that series. So I was just like, we need to beat these guys. And that's probably the most recent one I would say that I remember being very, very like passionate about because we were ready to fight after we won. Like we were like, oh, let's just go beat up these guys or something, afterwards. But one of my most favorite moments was in the finals. Shaq fouls out against Indiana, and I was like, oh my God, like we don't have Shaq. It's just Kobe. I love Kobe, but I don't know if he has enough to overwhelm this team. And he just starts hitting shots, and he does that. He looks at the crowd, tells them to calm down, tells them to relax. And I was just like, when that was a moment for me. And yeah, that Sacramento, Portland, those two series. I have a lot of friends who are Blazers fans, and Portland's like a second home to me on the West Coast, and a lot of family friends that are Blazers fans who till this day, we're family, but when it's Blazers versus LA, we're all enemies on both sides. And I remember us talking mad shit to each other after the Lakers went, because Portland was one of those teams of destiny, just like Sacramento was. Like everything about them, they seemed stacked. That was, that reminds me. So Portland had Ruben Patterson, who had used to play for the Lakers, and he used to call himself a Kobe stopper. And the reason why I always laugh the reason why I always laugh, LeBron's a Laker now, but the reason why I always laugh about people saying like, oh, this is like this, the musical chairs of who's going to stop LeBron is because they did that with Kobe. First it was Ruben Patterson, then it was Raja Bell. There was another guy who was on the Kings, like Doug Christie on the Kings was going to stop Kobe. Like there's like this carousel of I think for the Rockets it was like Cuttino Mobley. I think it was the guy who played for them, or at the time or something like that. So it's just like it was it became a thing to be a guy who could stop Kobe. And I was just like, what is this? Like, what, like you guys gonna start giving out awards for stuff like this? And then we find out, like 20 years later, they're giving out finals MVPs for guys who can stop LeBron from winning the finals. And lo and behold, that's basically what's happened with LeBron's career too as well. But like those sort of things, like hearing the media say, "Oh, check out this guy, Ruben Patterson. He's practiced against Kobe in LA. He knows all of his moves and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Fuck, man, I want to beat these guys so bad now." Like, and it fast forward, it reminds me a lot of what's gone on this year. And like I said, these are small memories, and I am sure that there are Laker fans, and these are popular memories. I'm sure a lot of people remember his games against the Kings, his games against Portland, his games against Indiana, New Jersey, the Sixers, even against Boston, Orlando, all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure there are games in the regular season, like the 81-point game, the 63-point game or whatever, or 60-point game against Dallas that people remember. And I am sure in between those games, there are games that people hold very near and dear to their hearts when it comes to Kobe. And, he has lived a very, he has lived this life of like the journey of a hero, the journey of a hero who then becomes a villain, who then is redeemed and becomes a hero again, right? Like he was the young hero, or like the Luke Skywalker. I always like to use the Star Wars. He's the young Luke Skywalker who doesn't know what he really is, and then he wins, and then all of a sudden he goes from his hero arc to his villain arc, where him and Shaq have separated, and he's had these off the court troubles, and he's asking for a trade, and everybody's just like, well, what the hell? Like, we've done all this for you, and this is how you treat the franchise. This is how you treat your fans. And then he goes from this villain arc, and his off the court stuff gets resolved, and now he changes his number, and now it's his redemption arc. Like it's his redemption arc, and all of a sudden all these people who've put him down and doubted him, and now he's winning again. And then we get a guy like Pau Gasol, and we win 2 more championships, and now the hero is redeemed, right? He's got his Return of the Jedi moment, and he's redeemed himself, and he's done what we want him from. And then Kobe moves on to like his legend arc, and you couldn't write a better ending to his career than what he did in that final game to end a legendary career. And anybody watching the game was like, all right, the Lakers gonna give the ball to Kobe like for 50 shots. Like, we don't care how many points he puts up, but he's gonna have to shoot all 50 of these shots, and he's like dead. And that's the greatest ending to that story. And then he moves on with his life and stuff off the court, while, like you said, making himself accessible to all these young guys. And he did it quietly, like the Obi-Wan hiding in his hut. Players come and find him, and he helps them, but nobody ever knows that he's doing it. But that's somebody, that's somebody who let his game speak for him. That's somebody who let his personality speak for him. That is the person who, at the end of his career, took a microphone and told everybody in the arena, "You asked for my hustle, I gave you my heart."
He at the Philly game, there were fans saying that they had heard he was going to come there once LeBron passed him, and I said Kobe had already said he's not going to show up because he didn't want to make it about him. Enough people had made it about him as it was, and so I'm going to miss him, and he will not be forgotten, obviously. Mark Cuban said that he's going to retire the number 24 in Dallas. No one else will ever wear it.
Yep.
I think the NBA should retire the number 8 and 24. Maybe they retire one of them. Maybe don't do it at all. Maybe individual teams would just make their own decision. But I firmly believe that both his numbers should be retired. And I also hope that I know Laker fans acknowledge this, but I think more of the NBA community needs to acknowledge that. I understand that LeBron is basically the NBA right now. He's been in the NBA for a long time, the best player in the NBA. There was a stretch in between Jordan and LeBron And I'd really say Shaq had a couple years where he was just the guy. But in terms of popularity, in terms of winning, in terms of keeping the game relevant, when Michael retired, Kobe was absolutely that guy. Like even if the Lakers weren't winning, you had to tune in because he may drop 60. And if they were winning, well, then he was also still dropping 40 and 50, but they were winning championships. He kept the NBA relevant, and he is one of the baddest men to ever lace him up in the NBA. And wherever people decide to rank him, because there's all that nonsense about rankings and all this stuff, wherever he falls, it really does not matter at this point. He's simply one of the greatest players of all time. And I think that he's one of the better NBA players that we've seen that have become these global ambassadors for the game. We think about, obviously, LeBron and things that he does in various communities. Magic Johnson is another person that became this global ambassador.
Yep.
Kobe really became that. And this one hurts. It really hurts. And I don't know how long it'll take to feel normal. Like, we got home and me and my wife, we both acknowledged it. Like, it's like this weird, like, cloud, like this weird aura right now in our home. And I would imagine it's like that for every Laker fan out there that just is shocked and can't figure out what to do next.
Yeah, I just posted it right now, but so our temple out here in Chino Hills, like they have outdoor lights, and like everybody is a Laker fan. Like, we're all Laker fans, and so we were able to get they were able to get the outer lights to be purple and gold in remembrance of Kobe. But I mean, I said one of the guys that I saw there at the temple, like I saw him from a distance. I walked over to him. We kind of like walked like out of the view of regular people, and I just gave him a hug, and I just started crying again. I was just like, dude, man, like what the hell, man? Like, what kind of, the world works in mysterious ways. I am a God-fearing man myself, and I'd like to say that God works in mysterious ways, and he has one of the most interesting sense of timing. LeBron passes Kobe. He writes "Mamba Forever" or "Mamba for Life" on his shoes. Kobe congratulates him, and the next day, today happens. And so, not to keep dwelling on it over and over again, because I know this is going to be something that's going to be going on for the next couple of days. And it's crazy because, like, the Super Bowl is coming up next weekend, and you would think that that's going to be, obviously that's going to be a big deal because it's the two very popular teams, but for the next couple of days, it's going to be tough. My heart goes out to his family and to the folks that had family on that helicopter. But my heart also goes out to all of Los Angeles and to all of the Laker fans and Kobe fans all over the world. I know a lot of folks listen internationally to your podcast. It is very tough. And it is supposed to be. When you love something so much as that guy who's been playing for your team, it's going to hurt. And obviously this was a very tragic thing that happened, very abrupt and tragic. And so my heart goes out to his family, to everybody, but we'll get through this together. And tomorrow the sun rises and the world will continue to turn, and we'll find a way.
I couldn't have said it better. And we'll end on that. To all the fans out there, as Vinay said, you're not alone. We're all going through this together. So, in the words of the great Kobe Bryant, Mamba out.